With Satoshi Kojima training for his Wrestle Kingdom match against Kenta, who better to replace his spot on my desk than little baby Yoda. Look at him! He has his soup. What's going on, WrestleTalk friends and fans? I am the Quizzlemania fact checker and Quizzlemania champion, Tempest. Can't forget about that part. And I'm here to welcome you to the latest edition of the WrestleTalk Recap. This, of course, is the weekly show where I recap the news and notes in the week of professional wrestling and break down anything you may have missed on all of WrestleTalk's YouTube channels. This week, there is a lot of it. First and foremost, we have to start with the TLC pay-per-view, but more importantly, who walked away with the Jam That Championship? Was it Mr. Davis, or was it El Ficador?
He's still your champion, everyone. Jam that jam. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon. Well, for the review tomorrow on the podcast.
You'll get them next time, my masked brethren. Also this week on WrestleTalk, we had the Christmas show.
No, there were four arms and a stub. There were four arms and a stubby
That's
arm.
not what you said. You said they have four arms and one of the arms is stubby.
Yeah.
There's
You
only
drawn
four
a fifth
arms.
arm there, mate.
The annual worst show of the year. Now, the match of the week this week has to go to Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens from TLC. Roman Reigns continues to be on another level in WWE this year, retaining the Universal Championship over Kevin Owens in a TLC match. While the earlier TLC match on the show was a little bit slower, this one was all action as Kevin Owens took the fight right to Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. However, eventually the numbers game proved to be too much for him to handle as Roman Reigns hit a low blow and choked out Kevin Owens, pushing him to the mat and allowing him to grab his elusive Universal Championship. This match got 4.5 stars from Dave Meltzer, the highest star rating that a WWE pay-per-view match has gotten all year. But more importantly, it gets Tempest's seal of approval. The show of the week is TLC as a whole. It's not often that a WWE pay-per-view gets show of the week, but this week, TLC was by far the best show. One of their best pay-per-views of the whole year. It saw WWE champion Drew McIntyre defend his title in a TLC match against AJ Styles and later against The Miz. This was an excellent way to open the show, but TLC did not stop being great once its TLC matches were over. Almost every match on this card delivered, including the SmackDown Women's Championship match between Carmella and Sasha Banks, as well as the Raw Tag Team Championship match between the Hurt Business and the New Day. One thing that I guess kinda delivered, I mean if you want to look at it that way, was the main event Firefly Inferno match between Randy Orton and The Fiend. I always say when recapping these kind of things that you are allowed to like stupid, goofy pro wrestling wackiness, just as I am allowed to not like stupid, goofy pro wrestling wackiness when it is in a form quite like this. The performances of the men involved were very good, as they always are, but this was just too much. Murder! Murder, literal murder. It's too much. It's just too much. Moving over to the news this week, Daniel Bryan revealed that he is looking to move from a full-time wrestler role to a part-time wrestler role to focus more on being a father to his 2 children. Also, unfortunately, we have to talk about the death of one of the all-time wrestling legends, Danny Hodge. Hodge was a legendary amateur wrestler, one of the best in American history, never being even taken off his feet during his 46-0 collegiate career. Hodge, of course, transitioned into a pro wrestling career in 1959 and wrestled until the end of his career in 1976. He remains a legend in this business and unfortunately passed away at the age of 88 on Christmas Day. We here at WrestleTalk would like to extend our deepest condolences to the friends, family, and fans of the great Danny Hodge and thank him for everything that he has done for this business that we all enjoy. Moving over to this week's shows, one moment of TLC that we didn't talk about already is the return of Charlotte Flair. Flair returned after a lengthy absence from WWE TV, recovering from surgery, and she and Asuka were able to capture the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship from Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. On Raw, The Miz tried to say that he didn't actually cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase, trying to weasel his way out on a technicality. On NXT, we had a Gargano family Christmas special. Additionally, we had a pair of big matches between Adam Cole and the Velveteen Dream, reigniting their rivalry from earlier this year. Once again, Adam Cole, Bebe, was able to get the win. The other big match on the show was between Rhea Ripley and Dakota Kai. Rhea Ripley, continuing to further her rivalry with Raquel Gonzalez, defeated Dakota Kai in a pretty alright matchup, gonna be honest. Yeah, pretty good. On the other channel, on AEW Dynamite, we had more tag team wrestling. Who doesn't love tag teams? To open the show, Top Flight, one of the newest, youngest, and best tag teams in the game, took on Chris Jericho and MJF. Outside interference from Jake Hager ended up being the deciding factor in this one, as MJF was able to hit the Heat Seeker and get the win for the Inner Circle. Later in the show, we had another appearance from Sting, who called out Darby Allin before being confronted by Team Taz. Darby Allin then appeared at Sting's side to even the odds against Team Taz as they continue to hint at something going on between Sting and Darby. And then in the main event, we had an excellent tag team match between the Young Bucks and the Acclaimed for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. This was an excellent main event match as the Young Bucks continue their string of excellent matches on Dynamite. The Acclaimed almost pulled it off, but it was the Young Bucks who were able to get the win, hitting the BTE trigger to retain their titles. And then on SmackDown, we had Big E winning the Intercontinental Championship from Sami Zayn in a lumberjack match. How's that for a way to celebrate Christmas? Also on the show, Charlotte and Asuka were able to retain the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship in a three-way match against Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, and Bayley and Carmella. And finally, Roman Reigns was able to once again defend the Universal Championship against Kevin Owens, this time in a steel cage match. Lists! So many lists! So many lists, I can't even count them all. Actually, I probably could. It's like 8 or 9 lists. But it's a lot of lists. As we are approaching the end of the year, it is now time to take a look back on a number of the different topics from the year of 2020 and break it down in a series of list videos. First up, we have a recap of 20 wrestling stars who passed away in 2020.
Being the man behind the name WrestleMania to his now legendary new cool. I'm again so sorry about the impressions. Finkel's impact on WWE on and off camera cannot be overstated.
Next up, we have a list from Adam Blampier detailing 10 times wrestlers intentionally tried to injure their opponents.
Listen, I'm not going to put JBL and the Blue Meanie on this list. I can't talk about that one moment in wrestling history anymore. You can't make me.
That one's not related to 2020, but it is fun, so check it out. Then we have the list of 17 gimmick changes throughout wrestling in 2020.
He took that opportunity to launch his new Messiah persona.
For a funny list, we have 10 WWE bloopers that actually aired in 2020.
Or maybe he didn't. Austin's aim was off, or maybe it was right on. Maybe Austin was going for his nads. Because instead of receiving a gut kick to double him over, Steve buried his boot right in Byron's jewels. And to add insult to injury, a beer can later thrown into the ring for Austin to catch went wonky and caught Saxton right in the eye.
I'm saying 2020 too much, it feels like, 2020? We have a list that I worked on, that being every 5-star match in 2020.
There are plenty of divisive things in the world of wrestling. Was Jinder Mahal a good WWE champion? Was the Attitude Era overrated? Ollie Davis has AEW bias, etc, etc.
You see, when you're the only one who watches Japanese wrestling, you're the one who gets asked to write about Japanese wrestling. Then we have another list from Adam Blampier, that being the 10 worst WWE pay-per-view matches of 2020.
Well, I suppose not all of 2020 could be peaches and cream. Believe it or not, this has been a tough year for an industry that's built entirely around performance for a live crowd. WWE have, to their credit, managed some absolutely wonderful pay-per-view matches this year. I'll be letting you know some of my favorites this Sunday. What a tease.
Lord knows there was more than 10 of them. And finally, we have the list of 10 big WWE rumors for 2021.
The stage is potentially already set, with E being split from his long-term New Day stablemates Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods in October's draft, where the reported plan was to give Big E a big singles push on SmackDown. That hasn't exactly transpired just yet though, because wrestling sites reporting you're going to get a push 9 times out of 10 means you won't get a push. I'm hoping for a clean sweep of AEW here. We're on track.
It is the current AEW champion, Kenny Omega. He got, about sort of 9-10 nominations, I think, in the end, 6 of which were to a top level.
You can also find the written form of all of those features over on WrestleTalk.com in our features section. Over on Parts Fun Known, you have Adam's latest booking video detailing one of the biggest failures WWE had in the 2000s, that being WWE ECW.
First of all, this is not an invasion angle. I know that's what you want. I know it. Look at me. Stop it.
To be honest, it would be hard to do it worse than they did it. Right here on Wrestle2, of course, you have another week's worth of Wrestling Daily with Alex McCarthy. There are a lot of Christmas sweaters this week. That's a lot of fun. And over on Phenomenerds, you have the gang once again playing Uno, this time with every crazy garbage rule that Uno has in the Uno video game.
Here we go.
Oh.
Oh, it's the worst. Oh my god, it's the worst.
Oh, no.
Hey, there we go.
And in another Christmas treat, we have another edition of Board Game Club. This time, the gang plays Secret Hitler. And that just about wraps it up for another edition of the WrestleTalk Recap. I have been Two Title Tempest, reminding you to like, share, and subscribe to stay notified. Make sure, of course, you follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Our Instagram is at WrestleTalk.official. Our Twitter is at WrestleTalk_TV. You can follow me on Twitter at TempestWT, and I will see you next time. Possibly in 2021. I don't know when the next video is coming out.